Hey everybody, welcome back from spring break. We're going to take a look at your character posing assignment. I already went through and downloaded all the ones available. For Kayla, I put in Discord a message that says your file disappeared. I don't know what it was. I saw it in there, clicked on it, it went away. There was an error message and I've logged that. I'm not going to count your assignment as late, but just I just put it back in there, I guess, and I'll assign it whenever or I'll grade it when I see it. So sorry about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first one I've already got up here, which is Devin. We go to frame one. So the three poses were a heavy lifting, frightened, and sitting cross-legged on the ground. And I know that that sitting cross-legged one is going to be challenging because that's why I picked it. So let's take a look. So here's his heavy lifting one using the beefy boy, which is a good choice for that, of course. I like the form that we've got here in this lift. Very good. Nice and centered.
His back leg should be bent.
I think just a little bit, yeah. Hyperextending is usually something we try to avoid. Let me see. Okay, so he's got the knee controllers set to be in the absolute
Wait,
position.
wait. There. What is that?
Yeah, that's a setting on the knee controllers.
Oh no, that's never mind. That's the same thing as the thing over there.
Let me
Never
see
mind. I
where it
thought that was a new
is.
thing, but it's not a new thing. It's
Knee lock. He's got knee lock turned on for this one. I would turn knee lock off typically because then it's just a direction. Oh, I see. Okay. So when I turn knee lock off, now his leg's all weird shaped. And I think stretch. Let's see, is stretch set to 1 or 0? It's set to 1. So I don't know why the leg is so long when I turned that off. What did I do? Well, that's really odd. Because the stretch is set to 1 rather than something higher. Very strange that it's like all the way over here now. I'm going to put it back to how you had it. But yeah, as Gunter said, probably need to bend this leg just a little bit. I would just take this and just move it slightly down. Even this much is enough to get it feeling like the leg has tension. Although this joint for the hip is pretty extreme. I know that's possible, especially in a really dynamic move like this. I'm just kind of looking at a line, an invisible line drawn from down the chest and down to the ankle. As long as that's smooth, we're pretty much okay. You
actually the only
could,
reason I knew that you have to bend that leg is actually because my exercising instructor
yeah,
taught us that having our legs stretched like that is gonna be really bad.
yeah, it could constrict your blood flow and it could make you pass out. It could also result in injury if the thing inverts like the wrong way. I would say just a little bit more bend, probably not as much as I've just given it here, something like that, and maybe a bit more heel lift gets it looking like it's not so broken or strained anymore. Good use of the shoulders. Oftentimes people forget that when you're reaching up, you got to use the shoulders. That's good. Um, I'm thinking that the only thing I don't like about the lift itself is the position of your hands. This is a very, very heavy object. And the thing that's supporting the weight right now is sort of the webbing of the thumb, but really it should be square in the middle of the palm because that's the part that is definitely going to stop the object. So something more like this would be reasonable for the lifting. Whoa, where'd we go? Oh, I'm inside the gray object that I couldn't see. Something more like this would be more reasonable for lifting something very, very heavy so that you can see it's clearly pressing down on the wrist and forcing it to bend back almost to its extreme. So that would show a bit more weight. What you're showing right here is more like hanging from a bar or kind of just grabbing onto the bar, so it doesn't look like it has as much force behind it. Pretty good.
There might be a realism factor there, but you're supposed to keep your wrists straight.
Can you help it?
Usually, but
Yeah. I mean, sometimes there's a
I guess when
brace
it
on the
comes to
wrist.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I would imagine that you would bend at least a little bit like this much. So you're supposed to try to keep them straight up and down like that.
Yeah, you'll definitely mess up your wrists if you bend them
Maybe it,
under heavy
okay,
weight.
so I'm looking at my own hands and maybe it's the fact that I can rotate that thumb pad and this rig doesn't have the ability to rotate that thumb pad.
Yeah, I felt that when I was doing the assignment.
Okay, I think that's what's throwing me off, because when I look at my own hands, I can definitely get that thumb pad rotated out to hold on and then grip, so it's making it look a little bit odd. I would say good form is good. We want to observe that. But if I did just like that much, it sort of takes that effect away. And maybe he's struggling. If we want to give the appearance of weight, maybe he's not able to hold it completely straight. But like I don't know, what good weightlifting form is. I'm just kind of using my intuition. All right, very good. Let's take a look at the next one. So this one's scared. So I want to say, what is this guy scared of? What does it look like he's frightened of?
Getting pooped on by a bird.
Yeah, pooped on by a bird, maybe? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I was thinking more
bird
like
attacks.
earthquake, and he's trying to cover his head.
Yeah, that could be. He's looking up in the air, kind of ducking down, holding on to his head, kind of crouched over something above him for sure. The weight is really difficult to balance on this one because he's got a lot of upper body. His butt is behind his feet, but his big upper body is kind of between. So I think that it feels balanced enough. It's just a really hard one to determine. You could swing the hips a little bit further forward like this to get them more in line with the legs, and I feel like that helps a bit because with the butt that far back, we're really pinching those hip joints. Okay. Interesting. I feel like the shoulders on this one are very, very large. You probably need to rotate the shoulders up higher, considering that he's reaching all the way up to his head. Okay, very good. And then finally, sitting on the ground. There we go. Looks very meditative, huh? Like an almost formal martial arts kind of thing. Cool. Nice supple bend in the back. I know the neck is a little bit tough on this guy because he's the beefy character. Let's look at the legs in particular. Yeah, his legs are just so short with such big feet. I think you've done the best you pretty much can do with this character, getting those legs folded up. And I like that you put the hands on the knees as well. Work on your contact just a little bit more with the actual body parts. Try to get it to just about touch or slightly interpenetrate the geometry and let things wrap around each other when they're touching softly, because it looks good from this angle, but I can see that he's not entirely grabbing or touching, sort of floating off. And since he's got such big feet, his hands might actually even touch his feet just a little bit. All right. Very good. Thank you. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. Jesse. Missing something. Ooh. I don't know what that is. Okay. Cool. So we got beefy again. Here's his weightlifting. Boy, that looks absolutely painful, doesn't it? Oh,
Yeah, that dude's getting hurt.
Oh.
I think, yeah, he's like the moment before he's going to fall backward or something. So, correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you know something about it, Miguel. But you're supposed to rest this onto your shoulder right behind the neck before you lift it off?
No, if you're doing that kind of lift, you don't let it go behind your head because you're gonna fall backwards.
Oh, so it would be chest. Right.
Yes.
Ah, okay. So that explains that then. So not only have we got him bent way
If
back.
you're doing squats, you rest it on your shoulders and it stays there.
Yeah. So right now, if I draw a straight line to the ground from the weights, we're behind the heels. He's already falling, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So watch out for that then. You may have gotten a picture as reference, but it could have been the moment before a big accident or something like that. We want to be careful. Are these arms too far apart also for this?
No, that just is a leverage thing.
Okay. I was just thinking to when I've seen people do this that it might have been a little bit closer to like the elbow height, but I can't recall for this kind of thing.
Yeah, for a press, like a clean and press, you'd want to keep your elbows or your hands closer so you actually have power.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay. And so
you don't want to
now
make it hard on yourself.
you're doing sort of what I said. Whoop, so watch out, a little bit of lining things up properly. You're kind of doing what I was suggesting for the last person, but now yours is way up towards the knuckles and fingers, where it feels like it's getting wrenched out of the hand and doesn't feel supported anymore. So be careful about that. This wrist is being stressed to the degree that I feel like he's going to break something now. So it's somewhere in between those two extremes. The good news is this does look heavy. This does look dangerous. It just doesn't look under control. It looks like there's an accident waiting to happen. So you did get the feeling of weight in there, though. All right. Let's see. Scared. Oh, there goes his weights over there. All right. What do you guys think it looks scared of?
Something fast, like he's just putting his hands up to stop it.
Yeah. I like
He's about to get hit by a bus.
a bus. I feel like it's something smaller because of that knee thing. You know, that knee reaction is like a baseball or something like that. I like the detail of that knee reaction. I feel like it's possible to get some slightly more dynamic feeling in the body. What I think, let's see if I can grab, if we slide everything back except for that foot, we could do something like this where he's about to fall backward, or he's like started to lean his entire body back, maybe around here. So we get the entire thing thrown off balance. At that point, we could even start to do a little bit of ball or heel up off the ground. So we could do something like this. Let's see if there's a toe up down, to where he's like starting to fall off balance. Might be able to strengthen it just a little bit. So I'm going to be asking that question about the fear one in particular because it's the strongest storytelling pose in the three of these, where you had to imagine what the character was thinking. And that tends to be the essence of good animation. I will say from the front, he doesn't look balanced, but maybe that's okay in this case because he just yanked that foot up off the ground. That will start to lean him this way because he no longer has a support there unless his entire body is moved over the supporting leg. So what we could do is grab all of these and move it over towards this supporting side a little bit. And in fact, now that I've done that, that feels a little bit better. Like he's leaning to this side to get away on top of that supporting foot. Okay, so little adjustments here and there. Generally pretty good. All right, and we've got sitting on the ground. You look relaxed. Where does it look like he is?
In a park.
Somewhere sunny.
Yeah.
He also kind of has this Disney princess kind of vibe, though. I think the amount of back bend, chest out, straight arms, makes me feel like he's about to break into song or something. Do you guys get that vibe?
I'm thinking of a
Yeah.
yoga pose that I had to do.
A what?
There's a yoga pose that's similar to this.
Oh,
but
yeah?
I can't remember it.
Like stretching
Yeah.
the back, like maybe this is...
Yeah, and then the chest out.
But then the
That's
legs
kinda
probably
what I was
wouldn't be crossed, would they?
It kind of depends, but I don't think it would be crossed. Yeah, if it was like that.
It's a little...
Usually,
Yeah.
like straight out.
It's a little extreme. Also, watch out for your hands. Your hands are kind of going through the grid. They don't look like they're pushing against the ground. Sometimes this can be pretty particular. So if we just take this one, for instance, rotate it to where, and you could put a block down here if it's hard to see. Rotate it to at least where the palm is not going through the grid. And then what I sometimes like to do is take the fingers and move up, down, and then up again like that, which gives a sensation of pressure, right? Something like that. And probably I'd rotate it as well to kind of be flush with the ground. You could do this with the finger or not. In fact, you could do it a lot more with the finger. You can bend your joints, your first joint backward It's not really that hard to do, especially with pressure. So that gives like a feeling of pressure. Probably the thumb, something significant would need to happen as well. Cool. All right, very good. Let's take a look at the next one. Yang. Yang's here, right? Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
How'd it go?
Yeah, I think we went well.
So you got Moom and his kind of funny face. We'll ignore the weird geometry stuff happening in his crotch for some reason. That's probably just the rig. Okay. So like we were talking about the weights before, having it way in front of the body here makes it feel lighter. So try to get it closer to the chin or directly underneath the chin. Or lean his body backwards so that at least it's still held over the supporting area, because this feels like he's gonna fall forward or he's gonna drop it. Like he just tried to start lifting, but he didn't get very much up. He got more forward, and so he's about to throw the thing. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, I can understand.
Now, of the three rigs, you've got the one with the weirdest hands, but I like the detail that we've got here. The thumb traveling along, the pad wrapping around. This hand feels pretty good, especially considering how his hands are made. This one feels like he's about to let go a little bit, but I like that you did asymmetry in the poses, like attempted something slightly different. Good curve in the body. Miguel, since you seem to know more about it, are the angles of his feet and legs reasonable for this sort of thing?
His feet are, well, he's weird because like you're supposed to be shoulder width apart.
Yeah, but his shoulders are here.
Yeah, he's too narrow over that.
I would say they could move in just a tiny bit, but it's more of the angle that I'm looking at. It's almost sideways.
Yeah, it's super extreme.
Super
That's
extreme. Okay. So
hard
yeah,
to be realistic with, it looks like.
well, that's true, and he's a cartoony guy. I think I would move him in just a little bit, based on the look alone.
Because yeah, from the side they look forward enough, like they shouldn't be like out there.
Mm-hmm.
But then yeah, that looks extreme.
Right. Okay. Cool. Let's take a look at 10. Okay. So what do you think he's afraid of? Let's ask more general pose or general question. Is the thing he's afraid of something happening, something coming at him, or I don't know.
I think he saw something disturbing.
Yeah, this is almost like girl climbing out of the TV in the ring sort of fear, where you don't quite know what to do. So generally, from this pose, like from the side, it's pretty weak. From the front, it's a lot stronger. Yang, did you have in particular an idea of what he was afraid of?
Yeah, when someone is like unexpectedly like screaming at you and scares you, it's like my reaction.
Oh, they
My
like,
sister did that to me, and I did something like that.
oh, so they like jumped out and yelled boo, or jumped out and screamed suddenly.
Yeah, like someone
Ah,
like just came out and screamed suddenly so loud, and I was like, ah.
okay, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense because the body's just going to kind of convulse. You're not really going to have any strong direction yet until you kind of overcome that initial shock. I would probably try to lean his body away and get kind of an S curve in the body. Just take the whole thing and lean it back so that your bend in your back goes this way and your bend in your legs goes this way. And I think that would strengthen it just a little bit. And then from the front, I think pick a direction. So from the side, S curve is good. But from the front, I think just curl him over rather than having this S curve shape in his spine. It's sort of weakening the pose. And then something really weird's going on with this shoulder, but I don't know whether or not to blame the rig. Let's see. I don't think you moved. Yeah, you didn't move your shoulders. You got to move your shoulders. Every time the arm goes upward, like towards the neck, the shoulder is halfway responsible for that, so you've got to move that up. We might also have like a kind of twisting problem with the rig, like the elbow controller. I think it's this one. Let's see if this starts to, okay, there we go. So the geometry was pinching, and so the elbow controller needs to be moved somewhere a little bit closer. Okay.
Wait, so what you did? You just move the elbow controller a little bit closer?
Yeah,
Fix it?
it was too low, and so you see it starting to twist, and when it's higher up,
Oh,
it
I see.
untwisted. So it's not even really changing the position of the elbow very much, just a little bit. But then the shoulder helped a bit too. When the shoulder's down, it always feels a bit weird to have the arm raised like it's being broken, so you need that up. Possibly forward. Yeah, hard to tell with them. Cool, let's look at the last one. Another kind of almost meditative pose. His butt is so weird, Moom. Like he doesn't really have a butt.
Yeah, he doesn't have a butt.
It's like he's wearing a long t-shirt from the front. Okay. Not too bad. I think he's a little off balance because his entire body is back here, and then the center of contact is forward. It would be here and here. So you kind of have to lean him over his own thighs a bit to feel balanced, unless there was an object that he's leaning against, in which case it would kind of make sense. So keep that in mind. Get his body a little bit further forward when you have a sitting pose like that.
I tried to do that, but there was a lot of pinching in the hips, like when the crutches.
Well, it's
I
already
just-
doing that, so it's like it's not going to get much worse, you know? Oh, so one thing. Okay, yeah. So if we were to like stick his butt out, then you're getting this really, really bad geometry. Just don't worry about it. It's the rig. It's not you.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I had, and I didn't like how it came out, so that's why I did the other part.
Yeah, but it's clearly more correct to have your, since he's sitting upright, you're going to have the lumbar forward like that. So then we might take these controllers and move them all forward a little bit. Just enough to kind of feel like he's not going to tip over backwards. And we could mess around with seeing, like, can I do anything about this? We do have this other controller here. Could be some combination of the three. No, it's not. It's just that this rig is very old and weird. He's good for really broad, cartoony stuff, but very detailed stuff, he kind of doesn't function very well. Okay. But yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, that's just a limitation of the rig. There's just nothing we can do about that part.
Okay,
All right. Very good. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, Miguel,
Yes, sir.
let's take a look. Cool. Did you get a different version of the beefy rig? Because I fixed this flipping.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess so. I thought this would just be resolved when you opened it with what's it called?
With Maya.
Yeah, it was talking about the what's it called plugin? Mental Ray.
Mental Ray. Oh, okay. It might have been, but Mental Ray is no longer used in modern versions of Maya. So I think that's where the issue comes from. If you download the latest version of the beefy rig on the Google Drive, I flipped all of these so that it shouldn't do it anymore. Not like it doesn't really matter for us, but just kind of annoying. Okay. Cool. So you've got a similar kind of weightlifting. It still, to me, feels a little bit forward. Like we've got this heavy, heavy stuff right in front of the chest, and then the body is over the heels, and so does it average out to the toes and balls of the feet? Maybe. Especially if we're like mid-motion. Do you see this as a static pose or as a in the middle of an action pose?
I was in the middle of action because I didn't want to hook it under his chin.
Okay. So this would be during a fast push upward.
Yeah, he's just starting the jerk.
It's hard to express that. It's really hard to get the idea that we are in a freeze frame of a fast action. So probably picking a slightly more static pose would have made sense here, just because I don't know how I would depict that we're right in the middle of this fast action, you know?
That's a good point.
It looks pretty good otherwise, though. I like the detailed grip you've got on the hands. body position clearly looks reasonable. That's the only part that threw me off.
I kind of wish I'd done the open thumb like Yang did.
Oh, like up the side of the bar?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's scary, but it's a thing.
It's a thing people do. I know that I might do it just without knowing that it's right or wrong. I might even slightly wrap my thumbs around to the side rather than upward. Yeah, hands have a lot of personality, and there's a whole bunch of leeway in the way that you do things. Something I did when I was learning more detailed character animation is just hold objects in my hand, look away and just manipulate them, then freeze my hand and look at what my hand was actually doing. And it was incredible the kind of dexterity that you've got in your fingers. You would pinch things between your off fingers sometimes, or like just grip it between a wrinkle in your palm and then touch it with the tip of a finger. And amazing. Like even just cups or pencils. The detail finger work is really cool. Okay, let's take a look at Frightened. What do you? I have a strong idea already. What do you guys think that he's frightened of or avoiding?
She's avoiding a naked lady.
Wow, that's not where my mind went. Okay, anybody else?
It looks like he looks like he's trying to protect himself from whatever's coming from the left side of him.
Yeah, from over here.
Yeah.
I felt like it was
Something about the good pair.
I felt like it was a squirt gun or something. Like it looks like he's going to get splashed. The reason I would say that is because he's turned his face away. You know, like when you're afraid of something, you often lock your eyes onto it, refuse to turn away, kind of transfixed. So if I take his head and swivel it into this direction, that's like fearing a strike or fearing an attack. But when you turn your face away, it's like you're trying to protect your face. And that says to me like splashing or water or something like that, or like maybe a paintball gun. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah? The only part of this whole pose that I'm not digging is the supporting leg. I feel like that should either be moved this way or I'm not sure. Something.
I've tried it more extreme, like further, like towards the center, but it doesn't look right to me like that.
No, it's hyperextended now. I think maybe you just have to lower the body a little. Let's grab all three of these. So, oh, and I didn't want to leave that one out. So if we lower the body a little bit, so now we've got a bent knee. Now we might be able to move it to the center. Let's try tilt. Some tilt. Some ball. Maybe something like that.
The ball helps.
That actually makes it look mid-action. Now that we don't have any strong contact at all on the floor, it feels like something just instantaneously happened and is going to have to resolve in the next half a second, or he'll fall on the ground. So that gave it a certain kind of dynamic. The knee, I would probably keep this knee in line with the foot. That's sort of a general rule of thumb to not place the knees and toes out of alignment too much. You can do it, but it's very brief and also fairly uncomfortable to do. So strong actions, it's allowable. Generally, I try to stay away from. See, like when I put it over here, it starts to look awkward. When I put it over here, it starts to look broken or stressed. It's only got like a 10-degree kind of variance. The other leg, I feel like it's okay in the other leg because this foot is dangling, and that gives it a little bit more leeway. But I still might try to line up the toe and knee a bit more like that. They generally don't deviate very much. Okay, very good. Definitely a strong feeling here. I like the ducking protective hand. Turning the face away is a good detail there. Is that what you had in mind, by the way? Like something that might spray?
Not necessarily coming at him. It was supposed to be kind of like an overreaction, like something he doesn't want to see.
Oh, okay, like gross or disgusting?
Yeah, so Yang might have been right.
Okay.
The naked lady, see?
All right.
Or like a mouse.
A mouse, sure. Here we go. We've got relaxing crossing legs. So this pose, I was hoping people would attempt this. I'm glad many people have. The putting an arm on the ground to tense it to hold you up kind of thing is very difficult. I think a lot of you have figured that out now. One of the reasons why is because we don't take into consideration just how far up this shoulder has to be to feel like you've tensed it onto the ground. So check that out. Now that I've moved it way up there, doesn't that feel like he's got weight on it suddenly?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now his hand is floating above the ground because I did that. So I have to slide it back behind him. And sometimes people will go all the way back to like here when they're tensing their arm on the ground, even up to like touching their own hip or butt. You can go really, really close. And this is one time when it's okay to hyperextend the elbow also. So probably moving it a bit closer and lifting that shoulder. Let's see if I can go even higher. No, I can't go even higher without stretching the arm. Is a good time to get a hyperextend in that elbow. Let's see the crossed legs. So you're a little bit dipped into the ground. Were you imagining sand or something soft, or was it just like trying to make it work?
I was trying to compensate for how much his like flesh would push.
Yeah, it's maybe just a little too much. Just a bit
Yeah, I
less
see
than
that.
that, and I think you're good. So and unfortunately, I mean, he's so big, like that much would make sense, but he's just a little sunken. And the foot is the one that I just wouldn't do it to. The foot's like halfway in. I wouldn't go much further than that for a foot. But the hips are okay. Like sometimes you can sink those down. But just be careful. So yeah, really hard to cross his legs, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah. What I find if you, worst case scenario, try to just touch the shins together. So if I can't absolutely interlock something, that's what I'll usually do. So if I just move this one a little bit further that way, and then this one, well, you've got that resting on there, so it's going to make this tough, but just try to touch the shins or touch the ankles like that. Kind of gets a better feeling of having crossed them. But yeah, he's got giant feet, tiny, tiny short legs. So this is really tough. Interlocking the feet, the ankles, is a good way to do it as well. It's a very common way that people relax their feet. All right. One last bit is just that the hip angle is a little bit extreme for this. I think I would tone that down a bit. Probably just in the twist. Just bring that back to neutral a little bit more.
yeah. I think I might have accidentally tweaked that before saving it. I don't
Yeah.
remember it being that extreme.
It's got the right forward to back kind of rotation. Like, yeah, it would definitely be forward like that, but just the side to side. All right. Very good. Thank you. Let's take a look at the next one. Gunter.
That shoulder really does help a lot.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like your shoulders really they can go all the way up to like touch your own ear or jaw. But sometimes the rigs feel like they're breaking if you try to do that. But you really do have a lot of leeway for that. All right. Gunter, is he stealing that TV? See here, Gunter.
He's not stealing it. He's carrying it.
Okay, he looks furtive though. Like he doesn't want to be caught also.
What do you mean? He's trying to carry it, and he's like using his chin and his hands.
Am I imagining that, guys? Does he look like he's up to no good?
He kind of looks like he got caught.
He looks like he got caught.
Yeah.
It maybe it's the shoulders that's doing it. Like you've lifted the shoulders.
Yeah, it's heavy,
Sure.
and he's having a hard time lifting it.
Well, sometimes if a thing is heavy, you're going to have the shoulders extremely down to show that weight, like they're being pulled down. You could also lower this like that to show that it's heavy. How about that?
No, the reason why I had it up there is because he's using his chin.
Yeah, he's trying to pin it there, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, did you constrain this to any hand? Is it easy enough to
No.
put? No? All right. So if I were going to try to, all right, I'm going to constrain it real quick to, let's just say the red hand constrainer, constrain. parent. There we go. So now when I move the red hand, like that. So what I would do if I wanted to pin that is I would lean his body back. Oh boy, wow, none of his controllers move the same way. All right, I'd lean his body back. Let's get it back into position. And I'd also lean the object back as well. Because if it's that heavy, he's going to want to try to cup it into his body.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And then probably bring that down. Maybe use the neck. Looks like the neck is really far back. So then push the neck forward and tilt the head back. Oh God, his no neck head is so awful. Let's see, just a little bit then. There. And like that, maybe. A little bit more. Yeah?
Yeah, I now realize that I should have done the lean back.
Okay. Then before I changed the pose, the wrist angle is pretty crazy. You've got the hands front to back, like locked to the forward direction of the object, but his elbows coming out to the side. Two ways to solve that. One, rotate the hands so that they're facing more along the direction of the forearm, and then reposition the fingers so that they make sense. Or take the elbows and pin them to the sides a bit more. So if we take this and bring it back like that, now his wrists won't feel so broken.
Okay, I was actually debating that because of trying to do the language of heavy, and my mind just went elbows out.
Yeah, and that does make sense, but then you would want to take the hands and rotate them in more. Just so that that sideways angle. So the reason I'm saying that is because although your wrists have a lot of flexibility, if you hold out your wrists, you have a ton of spin in your wrist, right? About 90 degrees towards your thumb, and then maybe another 45 to 90 degrees away towards your pinky direction. Your front to back flapping, like towards your palm and towards the back of your hand, you've got about 90 degrees both direction there. But try to tilt your hand left and right and hold your wrist. Try to tilt it towards your pinky. You've got a pretty good amount. Try to tilt it towards your thumb. You've got almost nothing in that direction. And that's the direction that you're indicating, right? The thumb pinch here is huge.
Yeah, I would just do the elbows. Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
making the guy lean back actually solves the problem of it's heavy.
Yeah. So just be aware that your body has certain rotational limitations that we got to overcome. Like if the hand rotated that way, it's more reasonable. If it rotates this way, it's very unrealistic. Okay? Cool. And I'm trying to think, what about the legs? Okay, same thing with the legs. I would either take the feet and rotate them to face along the direction of the knees a little bit more. Just kind of line them up like that. Even this is a little bit better. Or bring the feet in and angle them out a little bit more. Actually, having that one out there doesn't look that bad, but the way you had it looks just a little bit broken, a little bit impossible. Okay. All right, let's take a look at 10. What do you guys think he's frightened of? Any idea?
I'm not sure. He's also looking away, so
I mean, this one to me looks like violence. You think there's some violence?
yeah, like somebody's gonna like swing something at him.
Yeah, I think he's being protective of violence. You usually get both hands up, open, ready to catch and guard, tucking the head away.
Correct.
Yeah, violence? Yeah.
Yeah, I got this. Anyone ever seen either the reviews or actually played Cyberpunk 2077?
I have.
Seen a little bit.
And see the NPCs go quiver down in fear, like, please don't shoot me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's what it looks like. I think that once more the knees look a little bit weird, but I was also looking at the kind of center of the body. To just go straight up and down is sort of like, that's pretty good, but typically you're going to want to lean back also. Even if it looks like the weight is off, that's good because it looks like he's about to take a step back with this foot. And if he's trying to get away from violence, then that would be a pretty natural reaction to move the center of body backward as well. I'm not sure if you're getting the hips into it enough either. Like the rotation of the hips separate from this part, which just rotates the whole body. So be sure to use that part for both body language and mechanics. Down here, you need the hips a lot more because the thighs are heading off in this direction. Where I put it, when I moved it back, you didn't need the hips as much, but it's still a little bit necessary to get it in line with the thighs. Yeah, and it's just something about this angle. It could be the way that his lower body, his hips are structured, but this looks a bit broken. I think it's because they're attaching his hips to the lower part of this pelvic girdle instead of on the side, and it starts to look weird for that reason. But
I
yeah,
actually did this dynamic. Eh, look from the back
from the back.
and see how the two yellow things are angled against each other.
This one and that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, the contrapposto.
yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I like that part. I'm just talking about the thigh. The thigh in particular just looks a bit weird.
Oh yeah, and also the thigh.
Yeah, this one looks fine. That one doesn't. All right. And then sitting on the ground. I get the feeling that he is getting bored or falling asleep after having waited a long time.
Kind of. It's in a relaxed,
Yeah,
kind of mood.
zoning out now. He's still got a little bit of posture left, but not a lot. If we went further to curve that spine, now it's even more tired. But it looks like he is waiting for something and is losing patience or is losing consciousness.
Yeah, he's at something he has to be at.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Being
when
lectured.
I was doing this, I was imagining myself at crisscross applesauce at my mom's school. And,
Yeah.
sitting in a circle, have to look at her, and this would be my posture.
The only thing that I would change is the distance that you've put between the feet to where now the thighs and almost the knees are overlapping, but the shins are out. I think that's probably not realistic. We want to move these a bit closer in so that usually the heel is under the knee or above the knee. Because that felt a little extreme. You might still have your hands resting on those feet. Let's see if I move them together. So foot, hand. I think I'd move it just about to like here. Foot, hand. Something like that. Yeah, I don't think it changed the nature of your pose very much to do that. It just brought them more into a realistic range.
I'm just glad you guys got the at the first try understood what I was going for.
Yeah, and I think you've got a pretty good sense of body language here. This one was the only one that the body language was read differently than you expected. But that one, I read violence there, and I read boredom here. So I think you got a pretty good handle on that. We just want to address body mechanics a little bit more. Very good. Thank you. All right. We have Elias.
And yes, it was a TV.
Good. Okay, I just said that because of the shape, but I'm glad it was a TV. Okay. So here we have Elias has the character lifting something in one hand. It would be nice to have that something there for reference, but we could just assume it's some big thing like a car or whatever. Got kind of a superhero pose going on here. It is sort of important to see how big it is because we don't know how much counterbalancing the body might have to do. If you want to see good, big, bulky character lifting heavy things, watch The Incredibles. Mr. Incredible lifts things like train cars. And although he's strong, the animators talked about how he still weighs something and it still weighs something. And so you'll still be pulled around and repositioned because of that, even if it can't crush you. So Elias, the one thing I'll say is get that shoulder higher still. I know it looks weird, but we do need that shoulder cranked up pretty high when you're reaching over your head. And for this one, I think down shoulder is appropriate for that one. But what you're trying to achieve with the shoulders would probably be better achieved by leaning the rib cage. Okay, so lean that rib cage over. Bend the spine for sure. Your spine looks very stiff. Yeah, there's very little rotation in the spine at all right now. So if we're lifting something over the head like that, I'm going to say we're going to be bending in this direction. Then the hips will probably be leaned over, and the upper body, like chest area, will probably be leaned over as well. Now I don't have to lean this up as high, and I don't have to lean this one as low. And I can still get the same kind of feeling. Depending on how heavy this thing is, flatten out that hand a lot, like really extend it back to show us how massive that thing is. And then we could worry about the grip or something. Trying to think anything else. I might also bring this elbow a little bit in front of the body and twist this hand around just a bit more and bring it a bit closer to the front of the body if he's just kind of reactively flexing that arm. Okay. Let's see what happens if I extend this. This looks like he's holding it and not doing anything with it. This looks like he's suspending it above him. This looks like he's showing off. Kind of slight differences in the body posture that can have different feelings. Okay. Let's take a look at pose 10. Does this feel like scared to you guys?
More like he's off balance.
Yeah, like someone shoved him, or he slipped, or was surprised. I'm getting surprised, maybe. Balance, definitely. Fear, I'm not really getting. Do you guys know why it doesn't feel like fear?
Because his arms are open?
Yeah, and his legs. When you have your limbs away from your body, that is a more receptive, open kind of body language. When you have your arms and limbs closed next to the body or tucked in, it's a more protective, defensive kind of body language. And that open versus closed sort of idea is one of the strongest ways you can send a message with character body language. So remember that if you want to resist or defy or reject, bring the limbs in close. If you want to invite or challenge or accept, then widen the limbs away from the body. And you definitely don't have to do the same with the upper body as the lower body. You can send sometimes mixed messages that way by having the legs very tightly controlled and the arms very open. You could kind of send a message like a character is being deceptive or trying to fight their feeling and act a different way instead. So yeah, right now it feels like slipping. I want you to think about also what you're doing with the hips each time, because they seem kind of out of control, like you're not really sure what to do with them yet. The two ways to go are just purely orienting the hips for the sake of the look of the pose, or using them in terms of body mechanics, like what is supporting what. So you could have a high hip on this side because it's the thing that's supporting his body, or you could crank it up in this direction because this is the C curve that his body is doing, or the more like that, really. Either way is a good way to go, but you just got to pick one and kind of go with it, because right now it's like sort of in this in-between neither kind of position. Okay. Uh, also for fear, you tend to flip your hands palm upward, either as like sort of begging or catching or defending. So palms tend to be up for a fear sort of reaction. Okay, let's go for this one. Oh, that's great. Cool. This is a very formal, meditative kind of cross-legged pose. I think that in general, this is working really well. I love the upper body. We've got just the fingertips touching and not the palms. Yeah, I like that. I just did it myself and it feels pretty good. You could get a little bit more curve in the fingers, but it would be hard to do it without losing that formal kind of feeling. I'm not sure if you're rotating the shoulders forward or not. I see down. There's a lot of down, but probably you need to move them a bit forward too. Just whatever direction the arms are going in. There we go. So it's rounding out the back just a little. And then down in the legs, I like what you've got going with the thigh and shins. I think that the feet are a little bit too pointed on this darker one over here. This one looks, it's like a ballerina on point kind of thing. And it kind of hurts. So I would just bring that back a little bit. And then if you have to reorient this, that's okay. Maybe lower the knees just a little. It wouldn't be unreasonable to have the feet completely in this direction too. I can see right now that the knee controller is parented to the foot. So that was probably part of the reason that it was in this position. But we can turn that off. Right now it's set to follow foot. Just change that to main, which is nothing, or hips, which will only follow where this goes. And then you can more freely put it wherever you want. Let's do main. So main, put it up there, and now I just bring it down. It can go wherever I want. It won't matter what the foot does. Not all rigs have that feature. This one does. I think it's kind of annoying sometimes, but sometimes it can be really helpful. So I'd bring it up just a little bit, and then push it a bit further again, and then possibly lower this. And make sure it's not going through the ground. This one's definitely going through the ground. Mine is now floating, the one that I was moving, probably because I was just being careless. But yeah, try to make sure they're not going through the ground. Right about there. And then reposition accordingly. All right, very good. Thank you. Let's look at Noah's. Okay, so we've got Goon in this one. Okay, so he's definitely fallen over, and something's wrong with his head. So if this is heavy, and he's holding it way out here at arm's length, then it would be pulling his body over, and since he's so far down and bent, he's going to fall down on his knees and face immediately. So you got to move that stuff back to be a little bit more central to look like he's got any kind of control over it. Let's see if I grab 1, 2. This one, I don't think it's constrained. Grab all of these. So at least somewhere back like here. Now at the point that we do that, we can't bend so low anymore with this amount of back bend because he's going through his own thighs. So probably a bit of rotation as well. So if I move this back a little bit, probably unrotate it just a tad. Let's see, this way. Something like that, and then getting it closer to the center of his body. At least his body itself doesn't look like it's rotated away anymore. So something really weird is going on with this rig, because I think you've moved it. So his hips and his body controller don't seem to be in alignment anymore, and I'm not sure how that happened. It's as if you moved the curves themselves, and they're no longer corresponding to the place where they would, because normally they're around this position over here. Yeah, because we can't move this part. Yeah, I'm not sure, but something has gotten out of alignment here pretty severely. The head and neck in particular is definitely broken looking. I think this one right here is the neck controller, and this one is the head controller, and they should have this kind of relationship together most of the time. If you're going to bend the neck back in order to tuck the chin in, don't go much further than this. What you had was really, really painful looking. I'm also not seeing very much bend in the spine. I see a little bit, but not a whole lot. If you really want to get this away, then you bend that backward. In addition to that, the way that you positioned the hands on the box is really, really simplistic and also kind of broken. So take a look at actual pictures of people holding objects. Grab an object yourself and observe what your body is doing. Because right now, lots of the body mechanics are broken or just not really functioning very well. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next one, 10. All right. What do you guys think he's is afraid of? What do you think?
Well, he doesn't want to see it, whatever it is.
Right, yeah, he's holding his hands over his eyes. Is it high up or low down? Up here?
High up.
High up. But we can't really tell. I mean, it's not specific enough for us to be able to tell for sure. We're not really getting the spine into the action. And in particular, leaning the body is one of the first things that you can do to start getting a dynamic feeling of being present and in the situation. Don't just leave it kind of neutral. So what you've done is kind of leaned them away. So what I would normally do then is counter rotate the spine for whatever you did with the hips. So I'd probably start bending the spine this direction if you had moved the hips in this direction. And you can see already that there's a kind of feeling of cringing or kind of contracting the abs when I start to do that. Probably needs more in this direction also. Like that. And then we could probably lean it back just a little bit more in order to get his head back in his hands. But there we go. So now his body is doing a lot more, whereas before it was just kind of stiff. I'm going to undo back. So this is what we had before. Okay. You're not really giving the hands any attention, like none of the fingers are posed. We do need to take that into consideration. Fingers do things, they bend, they pose, they spread out. You got to use that stuff. If you're going to cover your own eyes, try this right now, everybody. Just take your hand and cover your eyes. What I do is I have my fingertips on my brow over on this side. The whole thing kind of angles downward, and my thumb goes up the side of the skull on the opposite side. And so almost like I'm shielding them downward, like shading them from the sun. And my entire hand also tilts in this direction along the direction of my nose when I do it. So I think you need a lot more reference in body mechanics because the way this is being posed is just sort of like a toy would be posed, but we're looking to emulate like people. We want to get strong body language that's recognizable. So you need more stock photography or to just stand up and do it with your own body and observe what's going on. Let's see. So here's the cross-legged pose. So kind of the similar thing that we've been seeing with others, but the feet are going very, very deep into the grid here. We got to lift those up a little bit. The cross-legged pose is not that bad. And then the hands need to actually be doing something. You got to get the fingers into the action and then carefully observe what's touching what in order to make them feel like they're interacting in any kind of meaningful way. Okay? And I do not know what happened with the rig, but it's something pretty severe. So possibly grabbed the wrong thing and moved it, but I'd say getting a fresh copy of this rig would be called for. All right. Thank you. Paul. There we go. All right. Paul has got a big ball. Big ball. You know, this is like a traditional Icelandic kind of thing in their strongman competitions. The lifting stones. All right, the neck is kind of broken. We can't just do that with the neck. It's okay to want to get the chin up and away, but if that's the case, don't bend the back as much or get the body into a different position. Right now, he's holding it in front of his body. We do need to get the fingers involved. Don't be lazy with that. Probably they're going to be spread out. They're going to be cupped. I could probably do this just with a little bit of master grip and master spread just to get it started. And then all of the finger controls are down here, right? I think that we definitely need to rotate the hips back. Leaving them neutral like that is a very weak position to be in. I would say lean them back, then bring him further forward and down. And now we could unbend this neck a little bit so that it's not so broken and tilt the chin up. So at this point, everything in his body looks fine except for his hands and arms because they didn't move him from the position that you had. So I'll take this and bring it down maybe about here. Probably it's going to be near the hips, in fact, because of how heavy this thing is, but something along this line. Now we could actually even get like the neck forward, which would make more sense for this heavy kind of lifting pose. I think the body still needs to be back a little bit because all of the weight is like in front of the toes right now. So it still needs to be slid backward further. Like there or something. These things are seriously heavy. All right, let's take a look at 10. Okay. It looks like this is the I'm going to get hit by a bus kind of pose, I think. You guys feel that?
Yeah, and he like believes he can stop it because he's like braced as well.
Well, sometimes you just do that reflexively. You know, you just trying to do something that makes no sense because you're so scared. The one big part here is that this back foot is broken and needs to do ball roll, right? You got to use that or the ankle is just breaking. So no flat feet on the ground there. Also, your spine, it looks like you rotated this one, but didn't rotate the other ones. Okay, so the spine works as a unit all together. Grab all three rings, bend all three, and you get a bend in the back from that. Okay, so don't leave two of them out. Again, for some reason, the neck is in this very, very broken kind of position where it's like tucked into the jaw. It's okay to want the neck back, but going that far has now made it a little bit impossible. So let's unbend both of those just a little. This guy is pretty lanky and tall, but even this is a neck tucked position. Okay. Also get the shoulders into the action. I've mentioned that to a few people by now. Wherever the arms are pointing, the shoulders are going to be helping that. And if they're not, then it feels broken. So get those shoulders forward. That would be your clavicles. Okay. So at least something like that. And now, like, yeah, it looks like he's trying to stop a bus. Okay. All right, and then on 20, here he is. I don't know, each and every time you're doing something weird with the neck, like rethink what you're doing with the neck. So here we've got sitting, or maybe I just did that. You think I did that by like bending it? I'm going to reopen this file and take a look at this pose because I have the feeling that maybe I did that to the back just then.
Yeah, there might not have been key
Keys.
for the neck.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there wasn't. All right. So one thing you got to do, Paul, is make sure that you grab everything and hit S. Because I don't think you set keys on every bit of it. Possibly.
I wonder if the middle one had anything.
That one there?
No, when you tweaked the first pose.
Oh, this one. It's got keyframes. Okay, I can't see where they are.
Extended.
Let's look at the graph editor just to check. It looks like there's keys on everything. Or no, on the last one there aren't. Okay, that's it. So over here, yeah, there's no keyframes on the back over here. So that's why it changed, because I changed the middle pose and then there was just nothing to tell it to change to a different position. So make sure, Paul, on every frame, you grab everything and hit S. So if I go S, S, S. Now it doesn't matter what I do over here. It won't change anything over here. Okay. All right, so we've got him sitting. The neck is still kind of crunched in for some reason. Get that a little bit more relaxed. It's okay to want him upright, but not that far. And then it sort of looks like he's waving, but we don't have the shoulder in on the action and his elbow is really high. So let's rotate that shoulder up for one. Here's like an overly friendly kind of pose now. And his elbow controllers are way up here. But they're, okay, so they're not set to do anything. So you just need to use elbow twist right there. Okay. I did demonstrate how to use all of these guys in a video. So maybe go back and look at that in detail because you're not using like half the features of the body to pose right now. And so all of your poses are very general and are not getting the kind of specifics that we're looking for good emotive poses, particularly in the fingers, shoulders, and occasionally in the feet. Okay? And utilize the spine a lot more because we can't just leave that stiff. It's going to make your animation look very stilted and robotic. All right, thank you. Andrew. Here we go. He's got facial expression there. All right. Andrew's got a similar kind of like lifting ball. I like the facial expression there. The neck is doing that same weird thing that we just saw with Paul's. So we want to get that out and up just a little bit, even if you're bringing it way back. Whoa, what happened to his eyes? Oh, okay, he had the eyes like looking upward, so I just had to move those forward a little bit. So move that neck out and up just a little bit. Also the back, the hips, again, look kind of flat, and the first spine position is kind of detached. I feel like, isn't this what we just saw with Paul's? Or with Noah's or something? See again? Yeah, you're both doing very similar kind of thing, where it's like completely flat hips. For you, you had the stomach rotated over, but he didn't. It's kind of odd that you had like the exact same kind of thing there. Okay, so I'm going to reopen yours. Sorry. Slight detour. It's just giving me deja vu. All right, let's take a look at this again. So yeah, rotating the primary hip controller, the root control, is usually a pretty good idea. Even if you don't want to do it here because it moves everything, you can do it here in the hip controller. And with this much weight forward, the hips are probably going to be back, to be honest. So let's get this one back up here first. I'm going to just kind of make all of these more neutral. And then all together, rotate them forward to crunch the body. And then rotate this back so that we're off of that straight line now. Now that meant that I hyperextended your arms a little bit, but at least now it feels like he's exerting effort towards the back of his body. So hopefully you can feel that difference. Definitely always treat the spine as a single unit. Don't treat them as separate joints. Okay. Shoulders are not really doing anything. Yeah, they're literally not doing anything. Got to get those shoulders down and forward, or if you're trying to exert effort, up and back. Either way would be a good solid choice to make, but it depends on body language. Just don't have them doing nothing. Let's get the neck off of that extremely bent, broken position. angled up a little bit, and then think about whether or not you want the arms to be bent or straight. If he's sort of wedging them into his thighs to hold this thing here before he starts to lift up higher, that's fine, but we got to feel that interaction. And right now it's like kind of ambiguous. Or if he's lifting it up, then we want to try to get his arms straighter and more exaggerated so that we can feel like he's exerting some real solid effort. Your hands are sort of wrapped around the ball and sort of not. I'm not really feeling any strong sense that they are exerting any effort on the ball. I see that you've done some work in here, but I'm just not seeing that strong contact or feeling it. What I would probably end up doing is rotating all of the first knuckles back and the second forward, like I demonstrated earlier, to give a sensation of pinching or kind of scrabbling against the surface. Okay. All right, let's do the next one. I see a couple in here, like there's 7 and there's 10. I'm kind of worried that I've messed up your animation too by changing things. I'm going to go all the way back. All the way back, and I'm just going to set keyframes on every one that I see just to make sure that I'm not changing anything. Okay, so that one, 7 doesn't look any different. Okay, 10. Wow. What do you guys think he's afraid of?
Something's gonna fall on him.
There we go. There's the answer. He's afraid of that.
Oh.
Okay. Again, get the spine a little bit more treated like a unit. Don't just bend one part of the spine, bend the whole spine all together. If I want him to lean over to the side like that, then let's zero this out. I'm going to rotate while all three, I'm going to rotate while all 3 of them are selected, so that the whole spine is working together. Okay. Neck looks a little bit broken. In general, although your neck can angle quite a bit, more twist than anything. Your neck can twist like crazy, but if you look at yourself in a mirror or a friend, the amount that it can bend side to side and forward and backward is not really all that much, and the head will also do the same thing. So if your neck goes sideways, your skull will usually go sideways as well. If it goes back, your skull will go back. So try to make them work as a unit as well. Don't separate them from the shoulders nearly as much as you're doing. Okay, the skull though, that one can have a lot more independence. Okay, get the shoulders into the action. They're not really moving enough. If you're going to be reaching up like that, the shoulder's going to be way up and way forward. Same thing with this one. He's reaching up with that arm, so it's going to be way raised up like that. You can see it already feels a little bit better to see that. Okay. As far as body language, I don't really know what he's doing or trying to say here. It's like he's trying to catch, or he saw it and then he just kind of like lost complete body control and freaked out or something. It's not really giving me a strong sense of body language, I gotta say. People will try to be protective, as in like close in on themselves. They will try to get away, so you'll see them like leaning or off balance or shoving their legs out. They will raise their arms up protectively, but this arm looks like he's reaching towards it rather than shielding himself. If he were shielding himself, it'd be a lot closer to his body, farther up like this, and with the elbows tucked in more. Like you're afraid that something is going to harm you. That's a more instinctual kind of reaction, but what he's doing with his elbows, I don't really know what he's accomplishing or what the reaction is. So just like I've mentioned to a couple of others, get some reference photography going. Look at actors and how they portray fear. Act it out yourself and take pictures and see what your body does. Because right now it doesn't really strongly evoke something that I can recognize. I don't know what that was doing there, that keyframe. All right, so he looks a little bit relaxed. He actually looks like he's kind of daydreaming or on drugs or something, based on that facial expression. With the body, his foot's aimed downward at the ground. That's possible, but not with the knee up that high. this the knee controller? Let's see. Yeah, okay. Get the knee controllers. These are pull vectors. They need to be away from the body to work properly. So now if I lift them up and down, I can decide where that leg is going to be oriented. But if you're too close, then the pull vector won't work correctly. So get it a little bit more in line with the thigh. Wow, this pull vector is way off for some reason. But lower the knee down a little bit. Now this leg could be top down like that, but probably not quite as much as you've got. Something more like this. And then I would probably unbend and rotate it a little bit and use some toe roll instead to kind of depict that he's kind of grinding his foot into the ground like that. Something a little bit more like this is possible, but what you had before was kind of broken. So I mentioned before to a couple people who were trying to brace their hands on the ground, get that shoulder up because that shows the tension. Even if you're relaxed, the shoulders will go up because you're leaning your body weight onto it. Okay, and watch the contact that you have with your hands and things because they're just kind of like floating and going through and doing all sorts of stuff right now. They're not really making any kind of contact with the grid. If you need an object geometry, then just make one, put it there, and pose it and delete it after the fact. All right. Thank you. Last, we've got Isaac. All right, Isaac's got Moom. I don't know why he's got like albino Moom or something. Something weird's happened. And he's got like double layers on everything. Huh. Probably because this is the oldest rig and we've got some shader issues going on here. Or maybe he's got more than one rig in here. No, he doesn't have more than one rig. I don't know. But the layer stack is really, really weird. So here we have Moom holding up some weight. You guys tell me, are his palms facing the object or is that the back of his hand?
Well, considering the thumbs.
Yeah?
And considering all the fingers are bent upwards, I'd say palms are towards.
But what did you think when you first looked at it? Did you think it was his palms? Can you imagine that? Lift over your head, palms up, elbows raised.
No.
It's very uncomfortable. So those poses really, really
on
uncomfortable.
his face that he's not feeling well. It's like I imagined one of those movies where they had slaves lifting like prisoners who are treated like slaves doing labor.
Yeah. I think you need to get the elbows way lower before that starts to look reasonable. This one less so, but I think it's more the angle of the hand. Oh my God. I'm trying to comprehend this one. I think it's this. Yeah, okay. It's how far forward that was angled. So if your hand is going to be this far forward, then your elbow is kind of forward too. But now it's so far back positioned that that's impossible. So that's possible. Or if we are going to leave it back there, this is possible. Okay, so the top of the hand or the rotation of the hand and the elbow, they can't be that far off. Because that was a very, very broken, uncomfortable kind of feeling. It doesn't look like you're getting the shoulders doing much. There's a little bit here. So shoulders, again, probably want to lift them and move them, in this case, down, because that's the direction he's reaching. Maybe back and up for this guy. Could be. Really, really tough. Also, given that Moom is such a weird-shaped character, having this realistically play like he is supporting a block on his shoulders, well, he doesn't really have shoulders. So it's hard to sell that. It would probably be easier with the beefy character to sell this particular kind of action. I guess you can give him shoulders by just dragging this thing away from his body. It kind of, he spawns shoulders at that point. Okay. Spine is not really doing anything side to side. It's only forward to backward. Try to get every angle considered because I don't really know what his lower body is doing at this point. He looks very uncomfortable. The block is like perfectly flat, and then his lower body is just kind of taking some steps forward. It's a little bit general. It's not really giving me a strong sense of body language. Okay. Probably look at some reference. If this was based off of like the Atlas statue or something, then maybe this is the position of that guy's body, but this would be the wrong character to pick for that, I guess. Let's take a look at 10. Now he's afraid of the box. Get the body leaning and bending because the whole core of his body is just a bit too stiff. Keep in mind that the way that the body is going to bend in a protective or fearful kind of stance is usually going to crunch in. That's the first kind of reaction most people have to fear, is that you kind of reduce the size of your body, kind of crunch it in, and then we're going to have to lean this really far away. So even with those couple of changes already, it feels a little bit better compared to the stiff body that you had, where it doesn't really seem like he's going anywhere. Okay. Good note with the protective leg tucking over the crotch. That's definitely something. But the center of his body is forward right now, so he's actually going to move towards that object. So get the center of his body back and away so that the weight is going in this direction instead. Then we'd probably need to move this in to accommodate for that. And of course, tilt. Okay, get the center of the body a lot more active. The fingers aren't really doing anything either. They're open wide, but they're not bending or cupping, or the palm is not doing anything. Get them a little bit more engaged also. Okay, and then we've got sitting cross-legged. Boy, he's living a tragic life, isn't he? This poor guy. He's got his soles of his feet together, so that's not cross-legged. The prompt was for cross-legged. Ignoring that, it's not a bad position. Thinking like, is that possible? Yeah, it's clearly possible. And you can bend your feet that much. Yes. The knees would be up. Yeah, it's possible. Just not quite what the prompt was. And then what we've got, like, oh, it's sort of a meditative kind of like holding the thumb and first finger together sort of thing. That's kind of cool. Little hard to express that with this guy, though. I'm thinking maybe there's a way. Let's see. Twist. Okay. You can twist these fingers, and that will get it pointing in the right direction a little bit better. It also looks like you're only bending one joint. That's not how fingers work. Fingers use all of their joints. So if we want to pinch this together, we're probably going to want to have the very first joint. Okay, that's the metacarpal. We don't need that one. This one. Okay, so I'm going to do the pose with my own fingers to check. Okay, so for this one, the very first knuckle, I'm going to bend up. And the second one. And then the third one, I'm going to be back like that. And then check, how close do I get? He's got very, very big pads of his fingers. So now it looks like you can have like a coin in between those. I'll do the same thing for the thumb. Let's see, we've got only bend C. So bend C is the smallest joint, the last joint in your finger. You don't want just that one. Okay, so let's get bend A. We've got twist, spread. There we go. So spread, can bring it up into this position. Let's try twist. Okay, what else do we have? Lean. Or maybe curl. What's curl do? Oh, curl is just all of them. Scrunch. Ugh. Okay, I'm not going to use those. Let's see. Some combination of like twist and lean. Okay. And spread, probably can reduce that now. Yeah, this is pretty challenging. There we go. Okay, and now taking a look at it, let's twist it. No. Spread it. Lean it. Which one? Ah, there we go. Lean was the one. I'm trying to get it in line. There we go. There's a more specifically posed pinching position for these fingers. It did take me a while, but you know, the learning curve is steep. I would get in the hang of it and eventually be able to control this properly. But that's something more specific than what you've got here. This just doesn't show a whole lot of specificity. I can't tell what he's doing. We could do the same thing with his other fingers, getting them to, you know, curl backward or to curl inward or something like that. But I'm looking for that kind of attention given to these poses. Okay? He's horrified. Poor guy. He looks so horrified. All right. Thank you. So that was all of them, I believe. Let me check one more time. Except for Kayla's that I don't know what happened. I saw she sent some messages, but I don't know if she's been able to re-upload it. Let's see. Ah, we got it up there. Let's go ahead and grab hers real quick. There it goes. And open that. Okay. So we got Beefy. Looks like he's lifting a car tire or a big tractor tire. Something real weird's going on in his chest. I wonder, yeah, it might be the shoulder rotations or the neck or something. Probably the neck. I can't even see the neck controller. Where'd it go? Oh, here we are. No? So why does his chest look like that? It's like the skinning of his chest is kind of going weird. It may be that you're not using these controls enough and are over relying on these two. But something really odd is happening with the skin of his chest. I don't think that's the fault of the rig, really. I know that this rig is capable of lots of different range of motion. And so I'm just not quite sure what caused that, but it's some use of the rig, I think. Let's go ahead and ignore that and then keep looking at the pose. All right. So we wouldn't really see the underside of the fingers, so we don't have to focus too much of them if it's like going through the ground. But we would see the thumb, and I would like to see a little bit more specific posing there. This looks like he's about to lift it, but hasn't lifted it yet. And his body is really, really curled up with that neck very, very far back. And so maybe relaxing this a little bit is called for. I'm not really feeling it just yet. You're close, just not quite there. I can tell there's a lot of effort put into it. All right, let's see 10. Okay, so here's the fear pose. Yeah, it's like, what is going on with that chest, dude? Okay, I'm going to grab the whole guy. Key, key, key. And on frame 5, I'm going to key and then just try to zero out everything and see what happens. 0. Oh, okay. I think you've massively squashed his body beyond like his ability to cope with it or something. Let's see if I can get it. Translates and rotates. There we go. Yeah, something weird. What's going on, dude? Maybe there's a squash stretch controller that I'm not seeing. Very odd. This can happen with animating characters, by the way, you guys. Sometimes you can break them, and it's sometimes very easy to do. If you notice that, then you're kind of left with no choice but to go back and start again and try to not do that. Generally, if you delete anything, sometimes that is permanent and there's no fixing it. or if you are going through the outliner and selecting things that you shouldn't, or if the skeleton was visible initially and you moved something in there. There's lots of different ways that this can break, so you have to be delicate with your use of these rigs, with any rig really. But let's go on and see about the poses. Okay. Any ideas what this guy's afraid of? No?
Violence again?
He
Maybe.
kind of looks like he's pushing something heavy.
Like he's pushing a little bit. I feel
Yeah,
like
he's
Pushing against the
pushing
door
like a
against the
big
zombie
bug.
horde.
Yeah.
holding a door. Okay. Yeah.
Holding the door against the zombie horde.
Yeah. The only impression I got right away was that he's afraid of the wrath of his king or something like that. He looks like he's being submissive and like trying to say, "I'm sorry, my lord. You know, it'll never happen again." Like shuffling backwards or something. Interesting. So the shoulders definitely need to be moved in this though, because they're way out by the side. They need to be moved upward and forward. And I don't know what's going on with the skin, but yeah, something is clearly wrong. But the shoulders definitely need to be moved for that one. A little hard to tell with this kind of snaky, distended body. Your foot is also going through the ground. It looks like you got the rotation of the foot down, but then have tried to compensate for it with toe up and down. That's not really how we try to control the feet. Instead, let's level out the foot and get it back to a zeroed position, or at least near to it. There we go. There's 0. And then let's get rid of that toe up and down. 0. Oh, my num lock is off for some reason. There we go. And then we use heel ball for that. Okay, to try to get that up there. If you're worried about the knee position, then we can pull this out a little bit, and we've got to lean the hips forward, the whole body forward, before we can get the knee as far down as that. Huh, backwards is actually working better right now. I wouldn't have thought so. Yeah, this whole rig is acting very strange. I think because of whatever's happened to it. All right, let's take a look at the third one. Okay. Everybody went for this kind of meditative pose. I wonder if it's the first thing that would show up if I typed in sitting into Google image search. Okay. So you've definitely done posing to the spine, but it's not really following a pattern as far as I can see. Typically we want to have a strong S, C, or straight curve in the spine. And this one, it just kind of looks like it's hitting a corner. And I don't know what to attribute that to since we've got such weird things happening with this guy. Okay. Good contact on the palms. And then try to get the shoulders into the action as well, a little bit further forward. And probably a little bit up as well. Even if we're holding our shoulders down, it wouldn't be that far down. Let's take a look at the cross-legged pose. The cross-legged pose is kind of nonsense. I don't really see cross-legged. It's just kind of like this shin is over top of this foot, and this foot is kind of like hanging limp, and this other one is kind of just angled at a direction over here, so the cross-legged part is not working. Typically, your feet in a cross-legged pose are going to be angled upward somehow, like this, and that helps them to fit under each other. Something like that, but right now it's just not working. One of these has got to cross under the other. Probably more like that. And then we'd have to position the knees so that they're facing up again. I just don't know where it went. Oh, there it goes. Oh, no, that's an elbow. Is that it? That's it. There, a little bit more like that. This is crossed. Okay, hook one ankle behind the other at least. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, obviously something really strange happening with the rig. I hope you can figure out what happened. If I just load a default B feed, he definitely doesn't look like this. So I'm not sure how that happened. Hopefully with this assignment this week, we're going to circumvent some of that problem because I go over how to reference using file create reference instead of just opening a rig file. Referencing it prevents you from doing anything destructive to it and allows you to always just reload the rig file natively. So it makes it impossible to do this kind of thing. All right, that is it for everyone's poses. Very good. You guys have any last questions or comments about that assignment?
No.
Nope.
All good.
All right, this week it is a walk cycle, a full walk cycle. I'll warn you, this one is a long one. The lecture is like 3 hours. So cut it into chunks and start early. Don't put this off until the weekend or until Monday or something like that. You won't finish in time. There's lots of detail. I want to see you guys following the instructions as closely as possible. I go through the entire thing. The only thing I don't do is polish both sides of the body. I polish one arm, I polish one foot. I don't show the opposite of that, which is something that you would need to figure out on your own. Okay, but all of the lecture is up there. I wrote out the basic 3D procedure for making a walk just so that you can have a checklist. Brought in a bunch of charts from the Animator Survival Kit, which are really great resources to use. Use them in the video. 3 different videos. Okay. The end result of this is a play blast and a file, both. Okay, so let's do right here. So the wait, is this the wrong one? Oh no. No, okay, it's got the information. Play blast. Make sure your cycle repeats 4 times. Turn off the controllers and make sure your viewport's in full screen. If you forget how to do a play blast, there's a video on that on the YouTube channel. And use the cram codec because these will need to be made smaller. For the Maya file, import the reference rig before saving that version. I don't want you to turn in a file that still has references because I have to reconnect those a lot. But you shouldn't save your file with just the rig inside because you might break it. So reference the rig like normal. At the very end, import it to one version of your file to save for me. And I want both of those things turned in. Okay?
Yep.
Any questions? All right. Then that is the end of review today. Thank you guys very much for coming. And I will talk to you again on Friday. I strongly recommend you start this assignment before Friday because it is a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Thank you.